The Great Gospel of John, revealed from the Lord through the inner word to Jacob Lorber. Jesus teaches about the youngest day, eternity, and the last judgment. Chapter 153. The question about the resurrection of the faithful on the youngest day. On this, Simon Judah, who was also called Peter, said, "Lord, you told us several times that only the one who truly believes in you and will live and act according to your teaching will receive eternal life, and that you will waken him up on the youngest day. Look, Lord, these are two promises from your mouth, which are still not quite clear to me, despite your multiple explanations. What will be the fate of those numerous people who still, by far, will not hear or know anything about you? Are they only on the earth to fertilize with their bodies the vast surface of this earth for a possible better human race? Because those people can obviously not receive an awakening by you on a youngest day, since they, without their fault, can impossibly believe in you and live according to your teaching. And the youngest day is always something hard and mysterious in your teaching, despite the many explanations that you partly gave about it. For at one time it seems to be a general day that will happen some time, and another time a special day for every person who will pass over to the great world in the beyond. But no matter how, I still do not understand why once more an awakening is necessary for those who are already living in your name anyway. An awakening seems a necessity to me for those who are really dead, but once they are awakened, when and for what do they have to become more dead than before? Or will your gospel only be preached to them after the awakening? Look, O Lord, give us now finally a complete explanation about this, so that we not always have to secretly think that out of 1,000 human beings that you have created, only one was created for eternal life, and 999 for eternal death." On this I said, "Listen, my Simon Judah, it seems that on this point, about which you constantly doubt, you will never be able to have a clear understanding, even when being in full possession of my spirit. I told you already several times that I still have many things to tell you, but that you cannot bear them yet. That means to perceive and understand them with your reason. That is why I will send you my spirit and will pour it out over you all, and only that will guide you into all truth and wisdom. I only have to reach a little higher with my teaching, and you say, 'Now you have opened your mouth in parables and images again.' And since you are not capable to understand my teaching, you call it hard, saying, 'Who can grasp and perceive it?' Do you not know that in relation to my teaching, you are still like little children, underage, who are fed with milk, because they still cannot take and digest any hard and strong food? When after me you will go out to spread my gospel among the people, then you will do the same to them as what I am doing now to you and to other people that we meet. Or what would you think when in a school for children a very wise scribe would come and give speeches about the most secret parts of the text of the prophets to his young and weak listeners, who, of course, would not understand any of it? Would the very wise scribe finally not have to hear the listeners shouting, 'Highly learned and wise friend, teach us first how to read, and if necessary to write and to count, and see only then whether we are capable to understand anything of your high wisdom?' And look, such rebuke I finally would have to hear from you if I would represent my gospel in the pure heavenly light. For if you already do not understand the things of this world, that in case of necessity you can touch with your hands, then how would you understand anything if I would speak to you about things that are entirely from the beyond and heavenly?" Chapter 154. The Lord explains His mercy. That which you, my Simon Judah, have just asked me belongs for the greatest part to the beyond, and despite my multiple explanations, you cannot thoroughly understand it, and you are secretly accusing me of a certain unjust and tyrannical cruelty. That is not very nice of you, and this all the less since you know now who I am, and that it was not out of anger or vengeance that I assumed a body from your earthly flesh to personally and profoundly reveal myself to you in all my greatness, without making use of the mouth of some prophet to make my will known to you people. Do you not believe that I know much better the number of people on earth who were not able to hear anything about me, who are not able to hear and will still not hear about me for a long time? Why should I judge and condemn them, if without their fault they cannot believe in me, while I, even among the many Jews who heard me and saw my actions, never judged or condemned anyone, except a few for what their body is concerned, who wanted to grab and kill us with brutal haste and eagerness? Then why should I judge and condemn those who are ignorant and innocent? There is not one nation on the whole earth, because they originate from Adam, that since the first times does not possess a remainder of the teaching that was revealed to the patriarchs about the one and true God. It is known that later the priests and worldly rulers have, only out of self-interest, greatly concealed this one and true God, and put in his place all kinds of idols, in which the people believed, and to which they also made offerings. And look, if the people would live and act conscientiously according to those different teachings, then to me they would have no or little sin. It is true that they live in the darkness of all kinds of errors, but when their souls will come in the beyond and will receive my light about everything, they will be in the same position as someone here who has to go somewhere at night and stumbles against all kinds of objects along his way, whom he at one time takes for people, for animals, or for something else, but not for what they really were and still are. But when we let this nightly walker go along that same road in clear daylight, then he will certainly see those things which seem to him like strange appearances at night, for what they really are, and it will be impossible for him to take them for something else. He will finally laugh about himself because he was so stupid to take a tree stump for possibly a street robber, and a stone laying on the road for a hyena. From this you can easily see that such souls in that great world of the beyond will find their way much sooner and easier in my light of life than those souls who truthfully heard about me and can easily see and understand that I am the light, the life and the truth, but whose worldly attitude and evil will does not allow them. If you let them go to beyond, they will flee and despise even more the light of life and truth over there, which they already despised here so much. So am I wrong when I say, I will also awaken these spiritual dead ones when they will step out of the flesh of this world, and I will judge them and will let them find the reward for their deeds? I certainly will not judge them myself, but the eternal truth, which is also in them, but against which they are greatly hostile, will judge them, and will let them flee from my face. Can I be blamed in any way for that? Do even the wise laws of Rome not say, volenti non fit injuria? Or should I, perhaps out of some kind of love for my adversaries, dispose of my eternal light of life and truth, and put on the garment of lie and deceit? Hopefully no one of you would want that. But even for such souls who reject themselves, I have told you two comforting things. One time in the parable of the lost son, and later on a similar controversial matter like now, when I told you that in the house of my Father are a lot of habitations. But in order to express myself here more clearly, a lot of schools for education and correction, where even the most rejected human devils from this world can be converted and improved. I think, Simon Judah, that from this you will quite clearly be able to see how you should understand what I told you already so many times. Chapter 155. The Notion of Eternity. The fact that I never talked to you about the general day of awakening and judgment, you will all remember. But I spoke to you about a special youngest day for every person, beginning the moment his soul leaves his physical, earthly cover of testing. However, not for everyone will that awakening immediately result in receiving eternal life, or reversely, eternal death. And the remark has to be made that you should not consider the word eternal as an endless time that continues. Likewise, the infinity of my space of creation is not only related to that space which has no beginning or end anywhere, just like God himself, from whom that space proceeds, and which is filled in all directions of the works of his love and wisdom and the power of his will. Eternity in the spiritual world corresponds to the period of time in the material worlds. Thus, in the beyond, in the spirit, it is what we call here time. But with this, it is absolutely not said that there will be no change in it, but it is only indicated that truth and life are forever and unchangeably the same. That which is false and untrue will therefore eternally exist in contrast to the eternal light of truth and life, without anyone being forced by that to eternally remain in that contrary condition. For you know that God, as the eternal love, wisdom, might, and power, can and will never be inactive, and that he will, out of himself and throughout eternity, call creations into existence, will thus embody his thoughts, and will lead them from his love and wisdom to a future independent existence, by which in eternity there will be time enough and place enough in the endless space. And as long as any creation exists, a material object that is created will also exist for the divine pure spiritual, which in a certain way will, opposite to the pure deity, form the dark life's object of test. But this does not mean that this dark object should stay dark and evil for the whole of eternity, as little as this whole earth and the sky with its stars that are visible to you will remain eternally the way you can see them all now. But it will perish, and in the course of the time of times it will be entirely dissolved, and instead of that will come a new creation. That is why I say to you already now, see, I make all things anew, and you all will be my helpers in the new creation. You are limited here, in time and in space. Nevertheless, there are eternal and infinite things in you. You do not completely understand this now, but once you will entirely understand how even in the smallest grain of sand there is something similar. For let one of you, who can count, try to divide a grain of sand in little pieces, and let him tell me when he is ready with it. I think that this work will still last too long for every counter, even for the best one, because he eternally will not be able to come to an end. However, as infinity is present in even the smallest thing, so is also eternity. So when I speak about eternity and infinity, you also should understand its right meaning, and not as your short-sighted worldly reason inspires you. Look, with this I have given you manly and solid food now, for I can see that some of you are already more or less capable to digest this kind of food. When you will go out into the world in my name to proclaim my gospel to the people, you also will have to present this to the children as milk food. For if you will begin with teachings like these, the people will think that you are madmen, and they will certainly not listen to what you will teach and say, about which you should not be worried at all, for it will always be put into the mouth as to how and what you should say. Then my Spirit will do all the rest to all who receive my Spirit through you and who are reborn in it. And out of this will also exist the sign that my words did not come to you from the mouth of a human being, but from the mouth of God. And now, my Simon Judah, are you more enlightened than before? Chapter 156, The Last Judgment. Simon Judah said, Lord and Master, this time I very well understood everything that you have explained now, better than ever before. But I have to confess that I was almost crushed by your too great wisdom. It is easy for you to talk about such endless big things, even easier than when a lord of a house talks about his household goods. But our earthly reason feels the whole weight of your endless omniscience and its own complete insignificant ignorance. O Lord, you will have to pour out a great deal of your eternal spirit of light before we will be able to understand all the things that you have revealed to us up to now. I thank you for this great mercy that you are giving us now, but I nevertheless can also see that we will not be capable to also pass on to our disciples all those great secrets that you have revealed to us about the natural world, and besides that, those that are even greater concerning the spiritual kingdom. I said, "This is also not necessary for the moment, but my Spirit will do it for many whom I will call for that purpose. And for the children of this time it is sufficient that people should believe in me, and that I have come from God the Father. For what concerns this body of mine, and that every human being will, through this faith, pass over to the true knowledge of God, to the true love for Him and for his fellow man, and by that also to eternal life. And so you will be trumpets that everyone will hear, also those who are in the graves and who are held captive by the sea, because of their endless many foolishnesses and sins. And they will come out of the graves. And also those who were held captive by the sea will be freed and clothed with the garment of life. For he who will be awakened by the trumpet will not be awakened for death, but for life. However, the one who will not want to hear the blare of the trumpet will also not be awakened, and will stay in the night of his grave and in the captivity of the sea, until the time when this whole earth will be dissolved by the fire. For just like at the time of Noah, they will marry and will let themselves be married, and will not care about the voice of my awakened ones, whom I will pull away in one moment. And the others, with all their favorite ones, I will give to the fire that destroys everything, to the existence of which those who will then be the living and not penitent worldly people will have substantially contributed. And look, that will be the last judgment on this earth, which will soon have small beginnings, shortly after your time. But you also should not think that this fire will break out immediately in all places and spots of the earth at the same time, but gradually, so that the people will still receive time and space to better their life. Now, there is in you quietly the question again as to what will happen with those unruly souls. Concerning this matter, think only about what I just told you, namely, that in the house of my Father are many habitations and schools for correction. Then you will without difficulty be able to see what will further happen with such souls.